in order to help you with your revolution project, I created an example project for you. Last time I did this, it took me 20 minutes to explain it, so I'm going to go through really quickly. This way you have an example of how to do it and some explanation of what I'm looking for. So, starting out, revolution through fiction. Yes, I know you're comparing 4 different revolutions. However, if I compared 4 different revolutions, I would kind of be just giving you the answers. And we are not spoon feeding. So I decided to take a different look, and we're going to look at revolution through fiction. So we learned in class that revolution is all about change. Whether that change involves a complete overthrow of the government, if it involves politicians, if it involves war, it is change. And so the first book we're going to look at is The Hunger Games. And it was written by Suzanne Collins, and it was published in 2008. I'm sure many of you have seen it or read it. And it follows the story of Katniss Everdeen, who is a girl during post-apocalyptic North America. And what happens is she gets thrown into something called the Hunger Games, which there's a capital city that controls all the people, and in order to keep them in line, and in order to keep them obedient, and to punish them for trying to rebel and overthrow them before, they have these Hunger Games in which each of the 12 districts that surround the capital has to send 2 tributes, a boy and a girl, each year to these Hunger Games, and in which they basically fight to the death on national television where everyone can watch. So it's a story of how Katniss and Peeta, who is the other tribute from her district, go and try to survive, and they inadvertently, by kind of bending some of the rules, end up becoming symbols of hope, and they start creating a revolution within the society. The other books in the series are Catching Fire and Mockingjay, and they continue that story even further. So the next book is Matched by Ali Condi, and it is set in a futuristic utopian society, and the main character, Cassia, lives in this society, and the society takes care of all their needs. They don't have to choose anything. The society tells them what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat it, how much to work out, when to stop, and it even goes so far as saying when you die, and they control even that. So once you reach a certain age, they kind of put you to sleep, whether you're ready or not. They also control who you marry. They match you with who is going to be your best fit for a husband and a mate, or a wife. And in return, there's not disease, there isn't hunger, there isn't starvation, but that's just in that city. There's a whole bunch of other places outside of the city that they don't really go into, at least in the first book. Once you get a little further, you find out that this isn't true everywhere. And the other books are Crossed and Reached. Our third book is The Maze Runner by James Dashner, and this was published in 2009. And it starts out with the main character, Thomas, coming up an elevator into the Glade, which is this huge open space inside of a maze. He has no recollection of how he got there. He doesn't know really who he is, and when he gets there, he finds out that these boys, same thing happened to them. They came up in the elevator with supplies, they didn't remember anything, and they just kind of had to learn to live there. And what happens is every day there's runners that go through the maze and try to find a way out. They have to be back before nightfall, though, because if they aren't, the walls close and lock them out. And in the maze are things called grievers, which are these gelatinous and mechanical machines that sting you, and if they don't kill you, make you have all these horrible memories of your life before, and you go through this whole change, and it kind of drives you a little bit insane. So the whole time they're there, they are trying to figure out, how are we going to survive, how are we going to get out, and they keep asking why. Why are we here? Who set this up? Why does the sun never set? Why do these walls close? And it's very interesting. The other books are The Scorch Trial and The Death Cure, and there's also a prequel called The Kill Order. So the bulk of your work should be bringing all of those together. So what we just did would be your who, what, where, when, brief explanation of what's going on. This is where the bulk is going to be, where you compare. So let's start with the Hunger Games and Matched. Both of these are written by females and have strong female main characters. They both have extreme social inequalities. The capital in the Hunger Games is really wealthy. You have people with outrageous hair and clothing and tattoos who eat amazing food and have great technology, as compared to the people in District 12 where Katniss is, where they're starving. They have no food. They have one set of clothes, one or two. Same thing in Matched. The people in society are taken care of. But if you're outside of that main group, you, again, are starving. Your children are dying. They both also have a lot of governmental control. A Match we've already talked about. They control everything from who you're going to marry, who you're going to mate with, when you're going to die. The Hunger Games, they are trying to control the people in a different way, trying to make sure that they stay obedient to the capital. They stay scared of the capital. Some differences though, the capital is dependent on the districts, whereas the society isn't dependent on the outlying lands. And Katniss in the Hunger Games was already rebelling, subtly. She would go out and poach. She was trying to keep her family alive. In Matched, Cassia started out in the privileged elite. She was not, and she followed the rules. She had no reason to believe that they were wrong. As far as the Hunger Games and the Maze Runner goes, they both killed children on purpose, which is very taboo in our society's eyes. In the Hunger Games, they used them as pawns. They used them so that the adults knew who was in charge. And if they would happen to try to go against them, they would kill more of their children. In the Maze Runner, they were using the children to kind of find someone who was going to be best fit to lead the world on. Both of them are in a post-apocalyptic world where terrible things have happened, and in order to carry on, they need new people to run it. Hunger Games already has that set up with the capital. In the Maze Runner, they're trying to find someone who's smart enough, who's strong enough, who's brave enough, that they can take on this new world and help lead everyone to a better life. And in that case, that often involved putting the children in these tasks to test them that were often fatal. And sometimes they even killed them to see how other children would react, and to see if that would test them more or less. Both of the main characters lost family members. Katniss lost her father, and Thomas lost both of his parents. And in both situations, they had these dangerous creatures that were created from technology. The Grievers in the Maze Runner, and in the Hunger Games, they have the stingers, the bees that would cause people to hallucinate. They had the dogs that were actually the people that had already died. So both of them had really strange, technologically created creatures. The other difference between the Maze Runner and the other two is that the main character and the author were both male. And where the Hunger Games and Matched, the action happened within the so-called real world, in the Maze Runner, it was a computer-generated environment. Between Matched and the Maze Runner, they were both unaware that the government was controlling them, at least at first. And they weren't sure which side is good. They couldn't tell if it was their old government, the old people in charge, or if it was the new people that they were soon finding, the rebels. Which side was good? And both of them started out privileged. Thomas actually helped create this computer-generated environment and the trials that they were putting the kids through. He just didn't remember it once he went in. And in Matched, like we said, Cassius started out in this happy family that was well taken care of. Another key element in both of these is disease. In Matched, a disease came that was incurable, and those two sides, we're saying who is good. They were using the vaccine as a pawn to get people to support them. In the Maze Runner, there were solar flares that caused people to kind of go crazy and almost zombie-like. And so that's going on in the Maze Runner. So how can we bring all these together? Besides the obvious little things, but all three are young adult fiction, all published around the same time. They're all trilogies, even though the Maze Runner now has a prequel. They all are either are movies already or soon to be movies, and all three have entangled love stories where the main character has to decide between two people. Who do they love more? Which is a great theme for young adult fiction. But when it comes to revolution, which is what we're really focused on, how do the three of these represent revolution? Well, in all three, you see humans trying to take control of the environment, trying to play this creator role or this protector role where they're trying to make sure that people are so safe that nothing can go wrong. And all that does is create contention. It makes people feel like the government has too much control, that the humans have too much control. And it brings into this question of, would you rather have safety or would you rather have choice? And so this attempt on humans' part of trying to control the environment, trying to control the world, trying to control life and death, is really going to backfire in all three of these and push people to want to revolt, push them to rebel. All three of them are also dystopias. We've talked about utopias, which are perfect societies. This is the opposite. These are societies that are really bad and nothing is going well, and usually they have a totalitarian government or an environmental problem that makes life almost not able to happen. And all three also are these great stories about young people overcoming the odds, and even though they could die, they still stand up for their beliefs. And in all three cases, they had the opportunity to take the easy way out. They had the opportunity to keep themselves safe. But because they believed in these higher ideals, because they still saw injustice, they stood up, they rebelled against society, they rebelled against the government, they rebelled against those controlling them, and to try and do what was right and try to make life better. Other things, symbolism is in all three of them, which is a huge part of any revolution, any movement. In the Hunger Games, it is the Mockingjay that the people all rally behind and use that as a symbol to move on. In the French Revolution, we talked about the red hats that they used as their symbol. In the Maze Runner, there was the wicked, the sign wicked. Wicked is good. And that is a common theme throughout the Maze Runner. In Matched, the fact that Kai, who was Cassia's friend and one of her love interests, taught her how to write. The actual act of writing was rebellious. It was symbolic of beating the system, because this again is in the future, and this ties into technology, which we'll talk about next. No one knew how to write. It was old-fashioned. Everyone typed. So just learning how to do that simple thing that we take for granted was symbolic of change, was symbolic of breaking the rules and breaking the norm. And technology also plays a huge part in all three of these. And the authors do a great job of showing how, even though technology can help us, it also can create a lot of problems. It can help put and keep people in power, and it can also help start and spread revolutions. So, in conclusion, the three of these really are great demonstrations of how revolution is started, why people revolt, and it shows the desperation and the need for change and the need to feel like we're in control of our lives. And without that, people are more likely to want to revolt or be violent. So that is my presentation. If you'd like to look up these books, here's references that I use. You need to have a reference list. This would work. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. All right, thank you.